Hello, everyone. Welcome to Riot's Lunch and Learn series, the place where we spotlight Riot's sponsors and partners. My name is Jen Morgan. Just a couple of quick reminders before we get started here today. This event is being recorded and will be posted to Riot's YouTube page and our website and the meetup pages where you registered for this event. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please place them in the chat. We ask that you please place questions in the chat so that they can be read aloud for those watching the presentation at a later time. We will take questions throughout the presentation and have time for Q&A at the end. Finally, please keep yourself muted throughout the event to help mitigate background noise. Today we have Nate Goodall with Phase 2 presenting Fortifying Your Defenses, Next Generation Password Protection for Everyday Threats. Nate, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Jen. It's great to be back with Riot. We went through the accelerator last year and are now a Riot sponsor and just have had a phenomenal experience. So I'm Nate Goodall. I work on the identity and credential side of the Phase 2 business. And with me online is Tim Soley, our Chief Technology Officer. Also attending is our CEO, Ross Osborne. And I'll move forward to the next slide. Okay, so quick overview of Phase 2. We are a veteran-owned small business founded in 2016. We are actually in the town of Quantico, Virginia, behind the gate. So we live in one of the world's best protected gated communities for our company. Our biggest mission is to help veterans, their families, in their second phase of life. And to do that, we have really a three-tiered business. We do service contracts for DoD and the government in general, and we are always looking to do that. And that's part of our business of getting great jobs for veterans and their families. We also have consulting business to help companies enter the DoD. So folks who have great innovative civilian products that we know meet needs that were unfulfilled while we were in uniform. We're always really excited to work with companies to do that, help consult and get them into the DoD space. And then the third thing we do is we are really becoming an integrator where we go out and find great products and we use them, resell them. We also integrate them into new products. And that's really an exciting area that we've continued to grow. And today we'll talk a little bit about our identity and credential access management program, which is really an example of one of those things that we do. So next up, as we talk about identity, the thing that we really resonates with us is we carried identity cards with the government, right? Even to get into the town of Quantity behind those gates, we've got to use our retired ID cards, or we've got to find additional means to sign people in through the visitors gates. We know the importance of security because we lived it for 20 plus years, or served, for the number of years we did as veterans. And so we really value what identity is. In the military, we carried a common access card, that card, we carried it for about 20 years. And that card had was a smart card. It had certificates on board, and it was really moved beyond password for the DoD. When it came out, it was pretty revolutionary. But with all things, it's older technology, and it's an area that continues to grow. But as we made our transition out into the civilian sector, we found out, there's a lot of logon and password out there, which is kind of stunning coming from the DoD, because logon and passwords have a lot of challenges associated with them. They're pretty easily hacked. They're also not a great way to protect individuals that you've heavily invested in vetting, training, and compensating. That username and password could be used by anyone if they manage to hack those credentials. And we'll talk a little bit about how that process works, how that's gone on. The thing that we want to talk to you today a little bit is our solutions that involve moving beyond passwords. or very intelligently managing passwords for technologies that won't enable them to fully be replaced. We think that usernames and passwords really are the worst solution with current areas, but there's going to be areas where there is compatibility requirements for legacy embedded devices, for Internet of Things, and managing that correctly, managing those usernames and passwords is going to be very critical. So we focus not only on companies, but also on the home use. And today we're going to give you a demonstration of some technology which we think is great for both enterprise and home, and scales all the way up from the individual user to the enterprise. And I'd like to highlight on the lower right corner, of many of the hacking incidents that are occurring out in the wild, 49% of them, according to Verizon's data breach investigation report, involve stolen credentials. If you're using a password manager on Microsoft Word or in Google Chrome, you'll often get little notes saying, hey, this password and username was found in a breach. And passwords have just become very, very difficult to manage correctly, and they've become huge vulnerabilities. So getting at those, the National Institute of Science and Technology is really under the Department of Commerce, the guidance expert from the government on what happens with username and passwords. And they're just a very interesting set of publications to review in their special publication 800-63B. And it's updated pretty frequently. And last one was in October of 23. And the biggest thing that they'll give some guidance on what they call memorized secrets, which are passwords. And a quick comment on that, just to kind of think about passwords. There's a great quote from the novel 1984, in which George Orwell said, if you want to keep a secret, you must first keep it from yourself. And we are our own worst enemies when it comes to passwords, because they're very hard to remember. So by remembering it, we are not keeping it from ourselves. We're keeping it in our memory. They're hard to remember, so people tend to share them across websites. I know for a long time, there are now hundreds of websites, and the ability of a human to remember the individual password on those websites is just nigh impossible unless you're Rain Man. And so those memorized secrets are really important to manage effectively, but they're also very hard to keep secret because we have to write them down. We may be using them across different websites, so they don't work very well as a memorized secret because we end up sharing them a lot between different websites. We may share them with our friends and family if we have to use a common method, because there just haven't been great mechanisms to protect them as a secret, okay? So the NIST guidance also is based on the complexity. So this is why when you're entering passwords in your website, as you know, it's going to say you don't meet minimum complexity requirements. And that just is ever increasing as Moore's law goes out for computers, and as mathematical advances in password guessing have gone on, the complexity requirements just keep going on. And the tools for breaking passwords are now automated, and you can simply download a program like John the Ripper or other password cracking tools and run them in minutes. And up until a few years ago, you could crack a Windows password in under 72 hours. That was, in 2010, very, very likely that you could do that. Things have changed, but so many passwords are now out in the wild that now AI and machine learning is looking at patterns that people do. And it's a pretty highly non-random process, right? People use patterns on the board. People use things like their birth dates. People use things like their like words. And as a result, the dictionaries that are being used in the hacking attacks mean that often that those automated program systems can hack and break a password pretty quickly because people's use of passwords is non-random. So now For high authentication, high security environments in the government, we have a lot of requirement for multi-factor authentication. And we all know that's out there based off the apps that you have to get on your phone that will present a number to you or a push request or numbers. And so that's being addressed, in those memorized secrets, something time-based password that may come from an app, a single factor method that may involve a token that you have. You could be getting text messages. All of those things have made the environment in which people are authenticating and getting into websites very, very complex. I think I counted on my phone, I've got like 5 different types of apps that enable me to get a credential sent to me for websites that support MFA. It's very non-standardized and it's very complex for persons. So with that, we'll move on to the next area. The biggest thing about the history of usernames and passwords is that they really were based on decisions made a long time ago, right? In the Army, even when I served, but going back to the Romans, there are watchwords in which you approach a gate and you will use a guard, and you may use a watchword just to ensure that you're actually part of the unit or part of the army that's authorized to come through the gate rather than someone who's trying to come through. These have been used for thousands of years. Great example of passwords that are being used out there are the passwords to get into prohibition bars of the 20s, right? And so speakeasy, so our great grandparents or great grandparents were using those to get into speakeasies in the 20s. And that tradition of passwords was implemented on the first multi-user computer systems at MIT in 1961. And they chose passwords because they were very limited in the technologies that they had. They often had a teletype terminal, so they had a computer. They had very limited computer programs, and they often, in those eras, they were just storing the password plain text and just matching. And cryptography in the civilian sector was pretty limited in the time, and so that's really led to very insecure passwords, but really based off limited technologies. And that's really led to our Web 2.0 and now Web 3.0 password overload, in which we have gigantic password management programs. And if you have any questions, please post them in the chat. I'll get to those right away, but I'll go ahead and keep going here. So once again, the complexity, the multiple passwords and MFA solutions, there's a lot of them out there. As you can see, I've done a couple screenshots here for my Google account password manager, which is in my Chrome browser and my phone. There's at least 228 sites that have that. And as you notice, there's a couple passwords that I've now changed that were in a third-party data breach. So it's becoming very complex, managing down to the individual website and the individual app what your password is. And with 228 sites and apps, there's no way I could memorize those. You could use a third-party password manager like Bitwarden or LastPass, but you probably saw in the news a few years ago, LastPass actually had a huge data hack where lists of their passwords were leaked. And so when you're using any of these tools, you're trusting your secret to another entity, which you're hoping will manage it correctly, protect it in the same manner that you would, and it's very complex, and it violates that whole idea of keeping your password from yourself and the secret memorized password that you were based upon having the highest security. We can't do that anymore. It's so complex that we have to share it with these management environments. This doesn't even start to talk about MFA stuff like Duo apps or other authenticator apps that we all have. So it's become really difficult. And the challenge too in these password managers that we all run into is, if you're running an iPhone, are you using that as your authoritative password base? If you're using Firefox, is that your password base? Is Google there? So often I will update a password, and I found that one of my management apps has it and another hasn't been updated. So it's become really complex and individualized. So I think, kind of zooming out a little bit, the other challenge with all these things is we now have varying security levels. And like a lot of people out there, I have some areas that I really want anonymity to be critical. On the left, you can see an Xbox account. I have an Xbox account because my son has an Xbox account. I pay for the account, and I need to have one that I can then have human, or I can have family members as part of it. And the concept in gaming often is people do have these screen names, right? Because if any of you have ever seen any of the way that folks chat back and forth on these games, it can get pretty nasty. And using real names is not necessarily a great area to be. So we really want anonymity to be critical in those types of environments, on maybe on Reddit chat or on YouTube or on Xbox, those things that are highly social and not environments where we necessarily want to share our real selves, right? In the middle is LinkedIn. And I like to joke that LinkedIn and resumes are the best version of ourselves. They're not really they're not the whole person, right? They're the best version of ourselves for that reason. But it is pretty important that people know who I am, that they know who I work for, and a few details about me, and I have those listed. And as you've seen, here's the problem with username and password is LinkedIn really wants me to verify with them, which I have not yet done and probably need to do. But they're addressing that whole concern about, is this person anonymous or is this person actually identified, right? And so I like to think of this in the middle. This is where identity is pretty important, where I want people to know about me, but it's probably my idealized self I'm submitting to the exterior world, right? The outside world. And on the right, here's my medical records, right? Here's where my identity and my privacy is absolutely critical. My health records are there, the nurse advice line where I can talk to nurses about my specific concerns, or even any of obtaining appointments through the Military Health Genesis account. So there's a spectrum of these things that we're doing where identity is critical to all of them, where anonymity is critical on the left, but where our true self is critical on the right. And I think if you take your online accounts, you'll see that there's a good mix across this of where you fit into the what information you want to reveal and how much of your identity you want to manage. And what I'm going to talk to you next about is a technology that enables you to manage across the spectrum. So what we have here is our Sentinel card, and the Sentinel card is a FIDO2 certified token. And we'll go through a little bit about what FIDO2 is in just a second. But the neat thing about this is this token, if you see the gold rimmed area on the lower right corner of the card, you can see there is a biometric sensor. For most of us, that's a fingerprint, but it doesn't require a fingerprint. It could be, if you're an amputee, it could be your elbow or a consistent patch of skin that you enroll in this card. So the neat thing is this card is absolutely bound to the individual, programmed with their biometrics, and can only be used by them. If this token is ever used, only you can unlock it. But the very best thing about this card is that FIDO2 technology does not use personally identifiable information for you to log into a website. It's using a mathematical asymmetric key. And I'll show you an example of how that works. But the best thing about that is you're now no longer using a username which ties you to your person. For example, an email account, which all of these websites now seem to want to use email as their default. Instead, you're uploading that key, and you're just sending a bit stream of ones and zeros that then get matched against the card when you log in. And so for that Microsoft website, Xbox on the left that we showed you, that can actually be, all that is a digital key. No one can download my username exclusively off my credentials. They just get a list of ones and zeros on the public side. And they'll never be able to get into the private key, the secret that I must keep for myself, because that's on the card. It's unlocked only with my fingerprint. It's hidden from me, it's hidden from the rest of the world, and it's only exposed when I log into the card. It dramatically reduces the complexity because it absolutely assures that this card is the right token, and it absolutely assures that only I can use the card. I cannot share it with anyone else. So the FIDO2 technology, because it's really widely accepted in industry and government, and it's rapidly gaining acceptance. The skin print sensor that's on board is the same type of sensor that was used on the iPhone and in the Android phones. People like them. They work well. They have a better than 1 to 50,000 match, meaning that if you are if I were to give my card to someone else, there's less than a 1 to 50,000 chance that their biometrics will match, which is a very exceeds the FBI's quality for matching. And as you look at FIDO2, it's really widely accepted in industry. So you can see all the companies that are there: Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Bank of America, Intel, MasterCard, Visa, PayPal. All of these companies are rapidly coming behind it. What this is enabling to do is that really the next version of web that you'll see out there is really widely driven by FIDO authentication. So no more usernames, no more passwords, just cryptographic keys passed by the token, and it's very, very easy to use. It's also widely accepted in the government. On May 12th of 2021, the Office of Management and Budget published guidance that tied into an executive order that allowed government sources to start looking for FIDO2, and we're very excited about this. Okay, and you'll see the implications of that on the next slide here. So I'll go ahead and move forward. The neat thing about that wide industry support is it's supported on all the major operating systems and browsers. It's supported on iPhone, it's supported on Android, it's supported on Windows, on Mac OS. It's just out there. All the major browsers are there. It runs on Linux, it runs on all those things. So it's affordable and it's scalable. Microsoft recently issued a new press release that they currently support FIDO2 on enterprise, but they're now going to allow home users to use it to eliminate passwords and pins on their computers, which is going to be absolutely great. And the thing is that this is totally affordable and scalable from the home to the enterprise. Our token is our Sentinel card is under $40 per card. And we have a variety of options that we can enable you that you can get, such as printing a business card or other areas on the card that enable it to scale all the way, from the home to the enterprise. So it's something that can be used for a home user to make things complete, and it can also be used in an enterprise. So now I have a set of videos that I'm going to go ahead and share that show the enrollment process. So I'll go ahead and hit this button, and please let me know, Jen, if there's any audio issues, but we'll go ahead.
To enroll your biometric token, you're going to first place it on a reader, and you'll notice that you get a light with those 3 LEDs that were shown at the top. I then can program one fingerprint, and as you notice, each time I press it, I get a single light showing it's okay. Then I just got 3 lights. That means that it's enrolled one fingerprint and it wants another. So now I'm going to use another finger, go through this process, enroll, okay, and that's complete. As soon as I got the long light, It was complete enrolling biometrics in, and I have 2 index fingers enrolled.
So really easy to enroll the fingerprint, and it takes under a minute to do.
To enroll.
Sorry. Now I'm going to show you just how easy it is to enroll in a web page and to authenticate. The standard that websites are using to support FIDO2 is called WebAuthn, and this is their test page. So I'll go ahead and play this video for you that shows how to actually create an enrollment and to authenticate. And this is a step that we like to test. When we help people get a new card, we always take them to this site to make sure that they have the FIDO2 certificates and that their biometrics are properly enrolled.
Now that you've managed to program your biometrics into the card, the easiest way to show how the card works is to do a quick demonstration using the webauthn.io webpage. So here we are. I'm going to do a quick test account, and I'm going to call it Goody. I then click register. Okay. My machine has a fingerprint reader, but I don't want to do that. I want to use a security key. I'm going to hit next. Okay, Google's going to go through and tell me it's ready to do this. It'll lets me know that it's going to continue setup for this account. Nice Windows security message telling me that. Click OK. Now all I do is take the biometric card, put it on the reader, and unlock with my biometrics. I then enter a PIN key that I have created on this card. If you have not set up your card before, you're going to be asked to set that up. Now, if we notice that the passkey is saved and I can use it to log in, now we're going to do an authentication run. So I'm going to take my card off here. I'm going to click authenticate, and I'm going to be asked again to do a security key. Okay. Now all I do is tap it on, enter my security key, and I'm unlocked. It's that simple.
Okay, so it's pretty easy. It's a great demo to show that when you are enrolling the key, it's just as simple as unlocking the biometrics on the card, sending it to the website, and ensuring that it's enrolled, and then unlocking the website when you go back to it. So in practice, so that's the test environment. In practice, this is what it looks like on a Microsoft environment. And this is actually our company environment. We have supported FIDO2, and I use this to log into my Windows PC every day. It's much more convenient than a PIN or for a authenticator app or any of those other methods. But I'll go ahead and run this for you and show you how we add it to a Microsoft account.
It's very easy to set up FIDO2 to work with your Microsoft Windows account. In this case, we're using our Sentinel biometric key, and the first step is to go and click on the icon for my account. And I'm going to click in to say View Account, which will load up my account, and then I'm going to go into Security Info and click Update Info. This loads up a nice page that allows me to add sign-in methods. So I'm going to click Add Sign-In Method, and I want to add a security key. Okay? And it doesn't matter which you pick. I usually pick USB, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so now I'm going to be asked to ask my security key. And I'm going to click on here on security key because Windows gives me multiple options, and I want to make sure I'm using that security key option. I get another setup notice from Microsoft, but I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to get an option to continue. Yes, here we go. I'm going to take my card, place it on the reader, present biometrics, and enter my security key. Okay, it's all set. I can now use that method to sign into my Microsoft.com account for my work account. And when I name this, I usually want to find some name that is descriptive. This one is FIDO P2 that says at the bottom, so I'm going to call it FIDO P2, and I'm going to call this NKG demo. And that way I know exactly which card it is. Okay. And that allows me to do that. As you've noticed, I have 2 of these keys listed with my account, and that means that if I lose one, it's very easy to replace another one. And that's it. It's that simple to set up a FIDO2 key with your Microsoft account.
So yes, pretty simple to set up with Microsoft, and you can log into Microsoft very easily. And I'll go ahead, and then the other thing that as a final use case I'll show you is login.gov. So this is a really great website that enables you to get into your IRS transcripts, into your Social Security account. As a veteran, I use the VA, so login.gov is a great website that enables you to access government resources, federal resources, and they support FIDO too. So here we go.
The next option I'm going to create is logging in to login.gov, which will enable you to get into a Veterans Administration account, your IRS tax transcripts, or your annual Social Security report. So here I'm just going to click on sign in with login.gov, and I have an existing username and password. Unfortunately, login.gov is going to require that you have a username and password, but we're going to enhance it by adding a token. So we're going to go ahead and say sign in. Okay, and we are going to, in this case, I'm going to say use another authentication method, just because I don't have one. So I'm going to go ahead and use an app, which I have on my phone. I'm going to create that using the Microsoft Authenticator. And I'm going to enter the number that they want me to enter. Okay, so now what I get in here is I have multiple options here. So what I can do is I can add a security key here. And I'm going to create a new one. I have more than one, so this is the one I'm going to do. I'm going to say FIDO P2 NKG demo, which is what I'm calling this key everywhere because it has the nice picture of our Sentinel card on it. I'm now going to set it up, and once again I'm asked to create more, so I'm going to click security key. Very similar method as we go through. I'm now going to add the key on. I'm going to enter the PIN. And as you can see, the passkey has been saved.
All right. So that's a good example of how you can use a FIDO2 key. It's very easy. You're registering per website. So that enables you to store all of those on the token. It is a portable token that you can take anywhere, and it's protected by your biometrics. So the thing that I also wanted to add is we really started with the Sentinel key, but then we've added other products as we've seen unique use cases. And so what we have here is a partnership with a company called NIMI. They make this NIMI band, which has initially biometrics that you can unlock with a fingerprint, and then you wear the token, and then it actually monitors your EKG. And in our discussions with NIMI, your EKG is actually a biometric unique to you that does not change whether you are resting or whether you are running. It will not change. If folks have a cardiac event, there may be a change afterwards, but that's easy to adapt. But for folks who are in a healthcare or a lab environment, this is an absolutely great wearable token. If you're gloved up and you cannot use our Sentinel token, this is a great FIDO2 token that is wearable. It needs to be recharged. This is more expensive, in the $500 range, but very, very critical for folks who are in that lab or high trust healthcare or pharmaceutical environment. And we think it fills a nice niche that the Sentinel card does not. Okay. The other thing that as we've done is we've looked at some software that we've continued to go through, and with the Riot environment, we've learned a lot about the operational technology space and the Internet of Things space. And that means there's passwords that are going to continue to be out on those embedded devices for a long time. So this company, Access Smart, that we work with, has the ability to use legacy cards. So think your legacy door reader card, and do really smart password management. You will simply present your card to a reader, perhaps enter a PIN that's configurable, and it will automate the password and username exchange in the background with a client that runs on the computer. This program is really, the good thing about it is it enables you to automatically rotate passwords. Do you want to change your password every time you log in? Access Smart can do that. Do you want to change it every other time you log in? They can do that. Do you want to have a shared password that multiple badges that can answer? Access Smart can do that. So this is a great way to get it to secure those IoT or OT devices which have passwords, but that you don't want users to know or share. Let the software manage it on the computer and on the shared database, which is unlocked only with the token you have. So this is, we think, a really smart way to manage passwords, because they're no longer managed by users and cannot be shared easily, and they can be often rotated. The other neat thing that this company does for folks who are in the federal space is that they actually enable you to use the common access card or the personally identifiable verification token offline. So in lots of cases, in special environments, networks are air-gapped, maybe for a classified network or for a mission-critical infrastructure. And this software works for an air-gapped network using both the federal credentials, the PIV token, or the smart cards above. So this is a really nice solution for OT and IT. And it's also very nice for companies that have heavily invested in a current smart card solution and want a great password management solution. So that's one of our other software offerings. The additional software offering that we have is from SurePass, which is an IT and OT multi-factor support. This can run on an air-gapped network or on an on-premise environment, or it can interface with any of the hybrid environments to include SAML or Okta, any of those environments where folks work. And the neat thing is that you can log into a PC or a phone using a authenticator app or a time credential, maybe a piece of hardware or a badge or a FIDO2 token. This is a full-featured multi-factor solution, and it can be connected or air-gapped, and we work pretty closely with SurePass ID on this. Really nice for OT, for a standalone network if you want MFA for that. Also in an IT environment, if you want a ability to manage Windows access with a variety of methods, this is also a very useful piece of software. So really what we've done is we started with Sentinel and FIDO2, which we think is really the gold standard for security. And from that, we've grown a full portfolio of identity and access management services and software and hardware. So, we have the Sentinel token, which we've showed you, which is affordable, available for individual users and for companies. It can be printed upon like any other badge. It can have your business card on it. It can have company logo, and it is uniquely identifiable to you. And the real distinguishing factor for that is the card format, but also the fact that this card, once programmed, can never be changed. Only your biometrics can remain on it. The NEMI band is, our solution for those high security environments that are gloved and lab environments. Those are perfect. And then also we can get other badges for you. And then our software SurePass ID and Access Smart, allow us to get after your MFA solutions, whether you're using legacy badges or full MFA. And we can also help you with any services in this area. So with that, just want to let you know, these are tested and used by organizations, Access Smart's used by the Air Force. It's with a major manufacturing partner that we're working with. A SurePass ID is out with Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and it's in some hospitals. It's widely deployed. Sentinel, we are in the Virginia Smart Community Testbed, and we're also with colleges and universities such as UMass Boston. And we in phase 2 are using the Sentinel solution for our Microsoft website. And it's just being out tested and used by organizations, And with that, we're ready to go to an open discussion or questions. And if you have any questions, we'd love to address those.
Wow, thank you so very much, Nate. That was fantastic. Like Nate said, we're happy to take any questions. If you do have questions, please put those in the chat. And while you all are developing your questions, a question that I had, Nate, and I know you touched on this a little bit, but I'm hoping that you could, I was a little, like I could use a little more clarity around, like why does something like Duo not work? Like that's what we used in college. Why would colleges and universities be better off switching to a product like yours?
So really the distinguishing factor with the Sentinel card is that it can only be used by the person who has access to the card. Your biometrics, once they're programmed in the card, they can only be used by you. Duo can be configured on multiple phones and devices, and it could be set up, it can be shared, right? So say I'm going to take a test or check email, and I leave my phone unlocked. Anyone who has access to that phone could use Duo to log in. It also has you're still actually using a username and password often on the other side of the account, right? So if I had my university account back in the day, I know I had a username and password. Adding Duo on only gives me a number verification. It doesn't really protect my username or password. And there are means by which folks could get into an MFA solution to further expose that username and password. If you're using SMS messages, there's vulnerabilities that existed in System 7 signaling that actually enabled people to receive text message intended for someone else. So the thing that's really the highest security with the Sentinel card is it's only usable by the person who is enrolled in the card, and it cannot be shared. And that's the big difference.
Awesome. And did you mention like what the cost is for the services? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So our token is under $40. We have a new version of the token that's coming out that is going to be even lower. And as a result, compared to many of the other FIDO tokens that are out there, we really have our competitive advantage is the biometrics can only be programmed once. So the token is tied to the individual. And in many cases, the cost of the card is lower than most of the other tokens. It does support high security, such as the NIST FIPS 140 cryptographic container requirement that a lot of FIDO2 tokens don't have as well. So what are the costs for I see a question here. What are the costs for the card reader hardware? Jennifer McFarland, that's a great question. Card reader hardware can vary. We have versions that are as low as $25. There are also some, the version that I showed you is about $55. And that is a really nice, high quality badge reader that can work with a variety of tokens. So that is the badge reader is a factor, but there are now more and more pieces of hardware that support NFC readers on board. Dell, for example, has them in many of their laptops. There are also many laptops that are coming out with NFC, but phones in particular have NFC now very widely. And I've used my Sentinel card with my phone. And that's one of the big advantages of having the token is that it can be used on any device. It's biometrics that can move from platform to platform, you know, from a Linux machine to a Mac OS machine to a Windows machine. One of the things that you often see in each of those devices is they'll say enroll biometrics. Well, what they're actually doing is you're enrolling your biometrics to each phone and to each computer. So you're not really gaining a lot of benefits of cross-platform by putting those certificates in each of the devices, and that's adding to complexity. So we think this is a nice single token that can move between platforms, provided you have the reader. Did that answer your question, Jennifer?
Any other questions, folks? It's a pretty deep dive into password protection, and I'm realizing how unsecure my passwords are. Oh, Nate, the question around, there's a question talking about, would this be difficult to travel with?
So, Jennifer, that's a great question. We are actually, so it could be. I found that I carry the reader and the card with me, and I found it's pretty easy for me to travel with. And I really have to travel with it because I don't really remember my username and password anymore because I simply just biometrically log in. So I've found that it just has kind of become part of my kit bag. We do have a very small USB reader, the size of a memory stick, that you can use as a reader that's very easy to travel with. And if you have a computer that has an NFC reader, then you're not carrying anything else. The other thing that we're working with our manufacturing partner with is there are some apps that are being developed that would enable your phone to act as a reader for your computer. And it's simply just holding the phone up to the card up to the phone, unlocking, and then using that only as a transmission mean for the key. So that's one of the things we're trying to work on. And I think we have another. Yeah. And as Ross has said, he and Angie, his wife, carry one laptop and two separate Sentinel credentials. And that enables her to log into Microsoft 365. And likewise, Ross is logging in with his card. So that's, I've found that to be a great way to travel as well. And it just has enabled me to share my machine with other Phase 2 folks, having that available. And unlike those biometrics that are on the key, my personal home machine has a biometric reader. But if I use a company machine that has a laptop, I first have to log in with the username and password with biometrics. So I find it very useful to carry the card and the reader with me, particularly because there are so much of my personal methods that are now dependent upon it. I use it with my Vanguard investment. I can use it with Bank of America. I can use it with login.gov. I can use it with GitHub. I can use it with Microsoft, with Apple. I've just found that it's really just worked into not only my company workflow, but into my personal workflow as well.
Good points around comment being made about the password protection and Sentinel reducing the attack surface on hotel Wi-Fi. Fun fact for those who don't do it, make sure you clear out your connected Wi-Fis after you travel. Went into my phone one day, lots and lots of Wi-Fi.
Absolutely.
But it's sometimes helpful. So any other
Yeah,
questions?
and I think that point about the, public Wi-Fi too. I mean, the great thing about when you get into pure Wi-Fi, pure FIDO authentication, which Microsoft now has, where you just simply log in with a key, you're never sharing an email or a password. I mean, even just typing your email in on a screen where someone can shoulder surf your email, it's just amazing the amount of spam we all get on email. And, using an email as a login username has been pretty convenient because we now no longer have to remember that as well. But we really, I think, overshare our email, which has led to proliferation of spam. So FIDO 2 is great because it's simply a mathematical problem. Your key gets sent between the card and nothing is human readable. So it's very nice from that sense that we're not sharing those even things like email addresses anymore.
Well, wonderful.
Yeah.
We have a couple more minutes left, folks, if there's any other questions. But in the meantime, what's the best way for the audience to connect with you all?
Yes. So the best way to reach out to us, I've put our QR code for our website here. We are very, very happy to help you with anything with the ICAM. We also work in cybersecurity. We have some fantastic cybersecurity, Jen, that we would love to bring back to Lunch and Learn, and come see our website. Additionally, our email address, and I will go back here, nate.goodall@p2sc.net. I'll go back up to the first page. Just reach out to me on email. Happy to help you with this. We love the IoT space and the OT space to help you with. And also Tim Solis, our CTO, he has lots of great technical knowledge, worked at the Pentagon, programming cybersecurity budgets, and lots of years in cybersecurity and programming experience. I worked in the Mission Command Office for the Army, so lots of familiarity with the Army's communications and joint communications programs. And we would just love to help you in any way, whether that's with ICAM, cybersecurity, or with our consulting services. If you have great technology that you're trying to get into DoD, let us know.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. That about wraps us up for today. As a reminder, Riot hosts Lunch and Learns weekly on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock Eastern time. You can find a list of our Lunch and Learns on our website and our meetup groups. This event was recorded and will be posted to Riot's YouTube channel. Thank you all so very much for joining today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.